Survivor Series review. I'm Will, that's Brandon. We are the Cousins of Destruction Wrestling Podcast. As always, let's cheers. Talk about some wrestling, huh?
There's something about when the weather gets a little chillier and Survivor Series is coming around the corner, Thanksgiving tradition. Big Four feel at the beginning, but some of it, for me at least, didn't really hit home, but I guess we'll get into that here.
I guess we will. 2 War Games matches here in Vancouver, and we're going to start out with the women's one. We got Team Liv taking on Team Bianca / Rhea. Mm-hmm. Kind of ended up being Team Rhea, as we all expected, right? Bayley starts for the women. Something to note, or Bayley starts for Team Rhea. Something to note on Team Liv. Miss Tiffany Stratton comes out, no Money in the Bank briefcase. And we're all sitting there like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah.
So that was something to go. Now, these War Games matches, I have an entire page of notes. I don't want to read over the entire page of notes, but I wanted to be thorough when I was doing it. So we're going to try to capture everything that happened in the War Games match, but these matches are like an hour a piece. A ton of stuff happens. Go watch it if you really want to see absolutely everything, all right? But how it works, 5-on-5, one at a time. 2 start in the ring. Match doesn't officially start until all 10 people are in the ring, all 5 members from each team. Every 5-minute interval is where the next person enters.
Yeah,
so
5 on the first and then 3 after that, I guess, which is...
Oh, was it 3? Okay, that makes more sense.
The first one is like a 5-minute one-on-one, and then there's just 3 after that. So.
That makes sense, because I was sitting there some other times, I was like, oh, that was fast.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we started off, Bayley would start for Team Rhea, and Nia Jax would start for Team Liv. I looked at that, and I was like, damn, sending out the big guns right away. I appreciate that. But obviously, Nia and Bayley have recent history together, and Bayley was utilizing all that to her advantage, basically. So she knew all of Nia's moves. She was too fast, doing all the good stuff. She even took off her belt at one point, off of her own gear, started whipping her. So that was good stuff. But then eventually Naomi would come because Team Rhea has the advantage here. They won the advantage match, and then Naomi and Bayley would end up beating up on Nia Jax. Nia would get the advantage over both of them. But when the next person comes in for Team Liv, we would have Tiffany want to come out, but Candice LeRae would say, no, I want to go help Miss Nia Jax. So there were some inklings of the Candice LeRae, Tiffany Stratton, Nia Jax storyline happening there. We would get Bianca coming in, who would come in and start whipping everybody with her hair. Meanwhile, every single member of this match, whenever they entered the ring, they go get a weapon. Every single one of them. They were playing WWE 2K. They were throwing chairs in the ring. Bianca brought in a toilet seat lid.
Or Naomi. Somebody did.
I think it was Bianca. She got a toilet seat lid. Or yeah.
No, Naomi.
No.
Yeah,
it was Naomi.
Because Naomi did the stink face to Nia with the toilet. Yeah, with the toilet seat
right.
On. Yeah.
But Bianca grabbed a trash can and also a fire extinguisher. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like you said, we used the toilet seat lid. They put it on. They put Nia in the corner and they put the toilet seat lid on Nia's neck, and then Naomi did the stink face Rikishi move to Nia with the toilet seat lid, and I was sitting there thinking, wow, what a time.
Yeah, that was kind of my thought. I just was like, here we go.
Like, you look at it like kayfabe wise, like so Naomi went out of her way to unscrew a toilet seat lid from a toilet and bring it and was like, yes, this is going to give us the advantage.
Yeah, I mean especially the women's match, at least early on, like the constant like searching for the weapons underneath the ring.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who was supposed to set up the weapons for everybody to get, but it was like, oh, this is taking a lot longer than I feel like it should.
No one knew where their weapons were. Mm-hmm. No one. It was just like they'd constantly search around. And also, they almost weren't necessary because they were not swinging the chairs, man. I know that's a picky subject when it comes to wrestling, because it's like we all want to be safe at the end of the day and stuff like that. And I'm here for that, right? But like at the same time, if you're gonna have, if you're gonna make a effort to like throw a bunch of chairs in the ring and you're going to use them, swing them.
Yeah.
You gotta, we don't do headshots anymore. You only do it to the back and stuff like that, which is good. But like they were really letting up and it really took away from the experience.
Yeah, especially Nia.
Yeah.
Nia, especially early on, I thought this match, we'll get into it, but I thought she was pretty sluggish, at least to start out.
Yeah.
And what you're saying, like they were doing like over the head ones to the back and stuff. Why not just do like the little little jam thing, you know?
Or get them to the ground and do the thing where they ground and pound. It looks so much better than if you're going to wind up over here and then let up halfway down. But we're not wrestlers, so, be safe.
This is true.
Tiffy would eventually come in, and when she came in, she grabbed herself a trash can. And when she was picking up the trash can, she didn't throw it in the ring like most people. She kind of lifted it up and brought it in the ring and set it in the ring, and that was something to look after. But she did take the lid and start beating the hell out of everybody with it.
I didn't even notice that she gingerly, softly carried it up. I didn't even notice.
Nobody noticed it until what eventually happened. But she would take the lid. She started hitting everybody with it. Her and Bianca had a good back and forth where they were basically like, hey, we're the top stars on SmackDown, not named Nia, basically. Let's go after it. And then her and Io would eventually come in after this. Io would grab a trash can, a purple trash can.
Yeah, purple and yellow at the bottom.
Yeah, and she had a harness on it. So she climbed to the tippy top of the cage. She didn't use the door. And she would put the harness on the trash can at the top for later. But then she'd come down and her and Tiff would have a really good back and forth of like, hey, we're the most athletic women in this match. And they would start doing like backflips and stuff, like all this gymnastic maneuvers, reversals, all the fun stuff. And they'd give each other the nod there. But we would have Raquel finally make her entrance, and then Miss Rhea. And when Rhea comes in, she starts to smash. But all of Team Liv does actually get the advantage on her right away. They all kind of just sick her. And when they do that, they're on top of her, and they have the rest of Team Rhea kind of already out for the count at the moment. And Liv does make an entrance to the match. Rhea does her explosion on everybody, kind of gets the advantage right when Liv gets her time to come in. And Liv looks at Rhea, and Rhea is, ready for it. She's like, bring it on. And Liv looks at her and goes, and leaves. And she just leaves. She comes out of the cage and leaves.
And I was like, what the hell is this?
We're all like, oh no, that's what they're doing? Nah, she just went in the back and got herself a bat. She didn't put it under the ring. She saw how jumbled under the ring was. Yeah. Nobody can find everything, so she just put the bat right there in the bag and went and got it. But when she got the bat, Rhea then got jumped again by everybody, and they held Rhea down as Liv would start beating her with the bat. She hit her like 4 or 5 times in the belly, and then she fell over, and she kept hitting her in the back with it. I was like, damn.
Yeah, we were talking about how, for lack of a better term, how stiff some of the chair shots were, at least how they were kind of pulling away, letting up, not really hitting them. But Liv came out, and she was swinging that bat.
Yeah.
I thought those shots with the bat, I was like, those look brutal. They look good.
Yeah, that's a bat, bro. Ouch.
Yeah, I know it's like a rubber bat, but still.
Yeah, when this happened, eventually all hell would break loose, and right before all hell would break loose, Liv would show some handcuffs. She pulled some handcuffs out of her suit or whatever, and she was dangling them. And right when that happened, Io Sky walks in with the fire extinguisher, just sprays it off, and covers the entire ring in like a cloud. It was so well done. And when the cloud goes away, you see Rhea laughing, and she had handcuffed Raquel to the corner, to the turnbuckle.
Yeah.
And she's cracking up. And I was like, that was really well done. Holy shit. Because it was like a movie. It was like when the cloud went away, that happened. And it was just like, oh, cool. Match would continue. And of course, everybody's going wild except for little Raquel, who's now sitting in the corner, and she's all handcuffed. And meanwhile, you have Tiff on one side scaling the cage, and you have Io Sky scaling the cage on the other side. And Io puts the trash can over her head, and Tiff says a little word. Tiff swanton bombs off the top of the cage into a bunch of people. And on the opposite side, Io Sky does her over the moonsault with the garbage can over her body so she can't see a thing into the rest of everybody. Yes. I mean, that's how you do it. That's exactly what we want to see. I absolutely love that Tiff was getting the spot there as well. Make her shine. And when she got up, she went over to that little old garbage can we're talking about, which is still standing up perfectly in the corner. And she pulls out a Money in the Bank briefcase. Because everybody's dead.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's in the ring dead.
Yep. Yeah, her side, I guess, was what? Liv and Nia.
Yeah.
And Rhea, I presume, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was the main people.
I think there were like 4 on one and then 5 on the other. But yeah, she gets right up, or that math doesn't add up. So 4 and 4, whatever the case, whatever it was. She lays out Liv and Nia. And you're like, oh, okay. Money in the Bank briefcase comes up, you're like, here we go.
Crowd is going bananas at this point. I mean, it feels like it's absolutely time until that damn Io Sky jumps in again with the fire extinguisher, and she sprays it all over the place again. ruins the moment. No tippy cash in. Damn shame, man. The damn shame is what it was. We would eventually get a couple tables set up, and Naomi at this point would do like a double rear view mirror to Nia and somebody else, to a bunch of people there broken up. But eventually we'd have some people go through some tables per usual, but it would end up being Rhea and Liv. And there's still one more table left, and Rhea and Liv are fighting. And Rhea starts beating the holy hell out of her, puts her on the top rope, or I guess Liv starts to climb up there too. They're kind of just, it's that in spot, and Rhea follows her up. And Rhea ends up getting the advantage, and she hits a riptide off the top turnbuckle through the table. Looked clean as absolutely could be. Pins Liv Morgan 1, 2, 3. Team Rhea gets the win here at War Games. The match was a tale of two halves. The first half was a slug. It was sluggish. They were just kind of going through the motion. Second half really picked up. It was a ton of fun. I got to give it a pop.
Yeah, I'm going to pop it as well. Like you said, it did start off a little rough, and I was like, oh, God, I hope this is not the case. But maybe just a little bit of nerves or something to start out the show. Big spot for them for the women's match to kind of start out first, even though I think we all kind of assumed that was going to be the case. I really like the story beats kind of laid throughout this. The continuation of the Rhea Liv stuff, obviously at the end, but then you have the Raquel saving Liv a couple times throughout the match.
You had Io and Bayley. They acknowledged each other in a rivalry fashion there for a second. There was a moment. It was kind of random, that's why I didn't really mention it. But like, there was a moment where Io and Bayley ended up right next to each other, and they're on the same team, but they looked at each other like, "Wait, I don't trust you." I remember that, and it was kind of just nothing. It led nowhere, but they at least acknowledged it.
Yeah, and then at the end you have, at least like the celebratory stuff. You have Rhea and Io are cheering together, but then it's like Io is the number one contender for Liv, but then you also have Rhea getting the pin, and we all assume Rhea is going to take that title. So a lot of different story beats through here. Thought the match was really good. I pop it.
Right. Here's the thing. You can't deny the match was fun. And the ending was fun. We had some great spots. It was a good War Games match. But the decision to have your two champions lose, your Money in the Bank holder lose, your Speed champion lose, that doesn't leave a good feeling.
No. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because it's a tale of a couple different things, kind of like the match, I guess. Like, yeah, you're going to pop it because the match was good. For the crowd, especially for us, I guess, that we're kind of Rhea fatigued right away. Rhea comes back and she kind of inserts herself into this, and her team ultimately gets the win here. The pin over Liv, it's like it really kind of diminishes the heel side here of Tiffany and Candice and Nia and Liv, because it's like they're the ones that are supposed to be the champions. They're the ones that have the titles, the briefcase, like they have the prominence, like the prestige, as Gunther says. They have that, and now it's just like, oh, well, we're back to this again.
I just think Rhea pinning Liv at the end makes the Io match feel like a complete buffer match. I would have really liked to see Io get a pin, even if it was over Liv. Sure. If you're going to have Team Rhea win, I just wish that Io would get the win here, or someone on the SmackDown side of things, maybe. Just because now with Rhea pinning Liv, it just makes the Io match feel like, okay, we just got to get through that. Like, there's no chance that she wins.
Right.
We got to get through that, and then we'll continue on to this 7-month-long feud, it feels like, that is just inevitably going to happen down there.
Yeah, and I think we all probably kind of assumed that was going to be the case. Like, they kind of got themselves in a corner because of the Rhea injury, and you're like, oh God, what do we do? Maybe they didn't know how long she was going to be out, so they kind of go plan B with Io, because you can put Io with anybody, but you at least have to give the suspension of belief, right? Like, you have to make me think Io's going to win, and I have no thought that Io's going to beat Liv. Yeah. You could have also done, I don't know, I mean, I guess the Raquel, like, getting handcuffed, I guess, the bodyguard Liv without her bodyguard loses again. You can tell that story, but if anybody were to take a pin, I feel like Raquel could have, because that's not your champion. Raquel has nothing, basically. You could counter that and say, well, then your bodyguard means nothing to Liv, and I understand that, but like, once again, we're just putting the the Liv Morgan title reign down again.
We've just seen her get pinned too many times. That's what it comes down to. We've seen Liv, our champion, get pinned too many times to where I think we're officially at the point where most of us are just like, okay, they're eventually going to put the belt on Rhea. Let's just get it over with. Let's just do it.
Yeah, I would rather fast forward to it.
Because the Liv and Rhea rivalry at this point, seen it, been there. That's kind of how I feel. Let's just go. Let's move it on, though. U.S. title match, Shinsuke Nakamura, LA Knight. Shinsuke with the mist on Friday night. We didn't have our review up because we were out of town, but Shinsuke's looking real good here. His entrance is absolutely incredible. His repackage is just phenomenal. And we were like, everybody going into this match was like, well, they completely repackaged this guy. A loss right away would be kind of right? And that's why we were on the side of this is going to be a no contest, right? There's no way that this is going to have a clean finish. Well, let's get into it. So match starts in LA Knight. He's not talking trash on the way to the ring. He's dropping the title on the way to the ring. Michael Cole was on commentary, but it was Corey Graves pointed that out. He's like, look, LA Knight's head isn't even into this. The mind games are working. He's dropping the title on his entrance. So that was something to look out for. But Nakamura would start out strong early with big throat chops and all that good stuff. But LA Knight would get all of his moves in. He would look very, very strong throughout the match. Big back elbows and everything. Shinsuke Nakamura would always, at the end of it, though, turn up with some big old move, big kick, his own back elbow that took out Knight to the point where everybody thought his nose were broken. He was like, I can't believe it. Michael Cole was like, that man's nose is broken. We're going to have to check up on it. I absolutely love Michael Cole. We would have, like, LA Knight would put him in, like, a torture rack power slam, which was absolutely sick. Like, we never see that from LA Knight. So the story here was, like, LA Knight is off his game because he would once again miss his top rope jump, but this time it was planned. It was part of the story of like LA Knight has the mind games are working, right? But at the same time, he's a great champion and he's able to pull off these phenomenal moves. That was just the story throughout the match here. But we would end up, the two rings were there because it was War Games, but Michael Cole mentions this weird thing about how they're not allowed to fight in both rings, which I was like, why? But okay, whatever. And the match would spill out to the big old like metal apron part that connects both of the rings. So it's in the middle. And when it spilled out there, Shinsuke Nakamura would do some type of move and land, basically make LA Knight land face first on it.
Yeah, I think it was like a scorpion death drop or whatever.
It was like a scorpion death drop, basically. Anyway, he would go for his finisher, but LA Knight would reverse it. He would go for the top rope elbow. That's when they would go in between the rings, and then he would do the scorpion death drop, go into the ring, kin shot to the back of LA Knight's head, back of the head, not the front of the head. 1, 2, 3. Shinsuke Nakamura, your new United States champion. They went ahead and pulled the trigger. Big win for him, big push for him right away. Match was absolutely great, and I thought the crowd wasn't into it at all, which made me mad. I thought the match was much better than the crowd put off. I'm gonna pop it.
Yeah, I'm gonna pop this as well. Like you said, we both kind of thought there was going to be some sort of no contest, but like you said, we were both out of town, or I was out of town. But when I saw Shinsuke do the mist on SmackDown, I said, "Oh, this man's winning!" Like right then and there, because I was like, because I thought to myself, like, you're not gonna do the mist back to back. Shinsuke comes out, like you said, that repackage, that kind of samurai look with the, again, a great theme song. They don't ever miss on his theme song.
Oh, dude, this like remix version of it is so good.
Yeah, we always talk about like theme songs being trash. Shinsuke, once again,
dude,
top theme song. So you're immediately invested into it. Like I said, the crowd didn't really like this match, and I feel like the crowd was kind of shocked by it, honestly. Like, even when the 3 count happened, people were looking around like, oh, did that just happen?
Yeah.
But Shinsuke looks really, really strong here, which is what he needs. If you were going to have this match have a finish, like kind of how we talked about in our predictions, like this is the right call. LA can kind of go off and do whatever LA wants to do now. And Shinsuke can kind of hopefully have some great feuds here now with this United States Championship. And he looked great. I mean,
yeah,
we kind of call for Shinsuke to, or at least I have. He keeps coming back. He kept coming back. And you're like, why should I care? Why should I care? Well, now they give you a reason to care.
Yeah, 100%. This is as good as this is exactly what they need to do if they're going to repurpose Shinsuke and make us believe in him right away. I believe in him right away. This feud I believe in right away. LA Knight will eventually get the same back at Rumble, probably. I'm guessing.
You think so? See, I don't think so.
I think he will. I think this is going to be a good old-fashioned heel gets a couple wins here and there, and then the good guy comes out on top at the very end. Just because I think LA Knight is still so over, and he is one of their top faces, and that SmackDown title picture is going to be absolutely reserved from January to April, May at the very least. So there's no movement for LA Knight when it comes to going up anywhere. So I think you keep him around the US title belt. And so you make this a 2-3 month program with Shinsuke and have LA Knight win it back at Rumble.
That's probably right, I guess. My thought though is Shinsuke looks so dominant here. I thought that I was like, oh, you know what? Maybe that's not the case. And maybe, you talk about the SmackDown title picture and we have a whole bunch of thoughts of who, I mean, at this point, I don't know what's going to happen for Mania season, but you talk about like the Rumble. I think LA probably maybe just has some matches here and there, kind of finding his way back to the old LA Knight. Maybe he goes through some sort of storyline like that and he kind of gets back and maybe he's going to be one of the favorites or at least early favorites to win the Rumble.
That would be absolutely awesome too. I'm totally down for a Shinsuke long title run. Give it to me. This was great. Match of the night, though, is next.
Yeah.
IC title, Intercontinental title, Bron Breakker, Sheamus, Ludwig. We said it was going to be match of the night, and by God, it was match of the night. These guys killed each other. Match would start, Ludwig would run out of the ring. He was like, these are some big guys. They like punching each other really hard. I'd rather not get punched tonight. Doesn't feel too good. So Bron Breakker and Sheamus, instead of chasing Ludwig, were like, yeah, you know what? We do like punching each other. Let's punch each other really, really hard. And they did that until Ludwig would eventually, obviously, get in the way. But this match would spill outside almost immediately, outside of the ring. Mm-hmm. And when that happened, Sheamus would kind of be perfectly placed up against the steps where everybody likes to do their moves.
Yeah.
And Bron Breakker would go for his big old running spear because there's now 2 rings to run around. Mm-hmm. So he was charging up. And then Ludwig Kaiser would come into the ring and baseball slide, drop kick him. And then Ludwig would run over and do his drop kick to Sheamus.
It's my time.
It's my time.
It's my run around the ring moment.
I'll give it to you, though. You absolutely called it because it happened. Bron Breakker hopped up on the apron, and Ludwig Kaiser and Sheamus were fighting around the announce table, and Bron did it. He did a double apron jumping clothesline over the announce table to both of them, and the second it happened, I was like, oh, Brandon called it. He called that shit.
It's one of those things is like, we talk about stuff in our heads all the time. I'm like, man, wouldn't this be really cool if they did it? And then they did it, and I was like, oh my God, like that just proved how willing all these guys are like ready to go. I mean, like you said, they brought it, and Bron Breakker, I mean, it's hard out of those 3 to be like, yeah, the champ goes in and he was the star of the match. But I mean, Bron Breakker just again showed how good he is in my opinion.
Dude,
he's so far advanced. He hasn't even been doing it this long.
Watch the match and watch how he plays the crowd, because he starts the match as the heel, the bad guy champion. And then he's doing so well that he becomes the face, right? The crowd absolutely loves it. They're barking. But then he makes you believe that Sheamus is going to beat him. And then so the crowd now has this giant face for Sheamus, and Braun's now the bad guy again. And then toward the end of the match, when all hell's breaking loose, when he's back to spearing people, they love him back. It's like they have themselves some just massive star here with Braun. But back to where we were after the apron clothesline. He throws Sheamus into the crowd, but then Ludwig beats up Bron Breakker, throws him against the steps, throws him into the ring. But Sheamus pops up from the dead, starts doing the 10 beats to Ludwig on the barricade.
Super cool camera shot.
Love it. Sheamus is absolutely great. And Sheamus becomes the absolute MVP of this match because when Sheamus and Braun are in the ring, Braun's beating him up for a while, but he gets cocky and starts taunting with his push-ups and stuff, and that ends up with Braun getting beat up a little bit. And that leaves Sheamus and Ludwig, who has had the longest rivalry out of all these guys here for a while. Ludwig goes over and he steals Sheamus's shillelagh, because that's what he does. He walks out to the ring with a shillelagh. That's what the old man does. And Ludwig starts beating this man, battering him with the shillelagh. I mean, there are pictures online. Go look at it. This man's back is just lit up with shillelagh hits. But eventually, Sheamus catches the shillelagh and hits Ludwig with it and kind of throws him over the timekeeper area. But Braun and Sheamus would brawl. And Sheamus would hit a Celtic cross, 1-2, ooh. Then we get a top rope Frankensteiner from Bron Breakker to Sheamus, 1-2, ooh. This thing's absolutely incredible. He'd miss a spear and go into a chair that was set up in the corner of the ring. And then Sheamus would bro kick him. 1, 2, crowd is on their feet. Ludwig pulls out the ref at like the hand is right here. Crowd goes absolutely insane. They are so absolutely pissed. But that's actually when the shillelagh spot happens. So he clears Ludwig out. Then we get Ludwig rolling back into the ring. He hit a rolling senton to Sheamus. And then after the rolling senton to Sheamus, Bron Breakker comes sprinting and dives over Sheamus, who's laying on the ground, and does like a flying spear across the ring to Ludwig. Hits him with it. 1, 2, 3. Bron Breakker gets the win here. He keeps his Intercontinental Championship. I mean, this match is perfect. Pops all the way around.
Yeah, because after he hits that on Kaiser, he gets up and then he spears Sheamus.
Yeah,
right?
he's Sheamus. Yeah. I think he ends up pinning Sheamus.
Yeah,
he spears everybody.
Which, like you said, to your point, like, hey, everybody, me as well. I'm on the edge of my seat. I picked Sheamus. Am I upset that Bron Breakker retained? No, but I was like, Sheamus is gonna get this title sometime. Why not now? And the crowd is full on, just like, give Sheamus the title. Give Sheamus the title.
They had me believing.
Yeah.
That 1-2 where Ludwig pulled the ref. I was like, they did it. They gave Sheamus the belt here. And then he pulled him and I was like, oh.
Yeah, and the camera shots on Sheamus and Kaiser both, like, you're like, God, this is good stuff. So that kind of maybe makes me think that maybe those two go off and maybe somehow, some way, you screwed me or something like that. Ultimately, I think the way this feud does end up wrapping up is maybe Sheamus gets that IC title off at maybe Mania.
Yeah.
Maybe you give it to him then.
They have to pivot after the crowd reaction.
But I mean, I think that was probably the plan all along. But if it wasn't,
pivot.
Yeah.
Sheamus can get you one more all-time pop. Like, he puts on bangers no matter what, but like, he can get you one more like all-timer. Mm-hmm. Like, if you give him the IC belt at like Mania or Rumble or something, you're gonna get yourself an all-time pop there.
Yeah. Make it a big deal.
Yeah,
as it should be. But God, I mean, this match is up there. I still think the McIntyre Punk is probably like the match of the year. But like, when we do our end of the year like awards, like, this is a semifinalist. Like, this is right up there. This is one of the top ones of the year.
Oh, 100%. It doesn't have the story backing behind it that the Punk did, but I completely agree.
Right.
But speaking of the Punk Drew McIntyre, feed Drew McIntyre to Bron Breakker next. That's what I would be doing. We would have our World Heavyweight Championship match. Gunther taking on Damian Priest, the broken Gunther. You know, he's not very confident in himself. Not feeling very Guntherish lately. But Damian would start the match smiling. Gunther would start the match nervous. And it started out basically Gunther couldn't get a hand on Damian. Damian was just kind of bullying Gunther, and whenever Gunther would escape Damian, he'd get out of the ring, walk around for a while, like staying away. But eventually, Damian would go for like a running shoulder tackle and jam his shoulder. He jammed the hell out of it on Gunther, and it was done so well that it didn't look kayfabe. It looked like he actually hurt his shoulder. And we had people in our Discord being like, "Oh no, this match might have to get cut short because Damian jammed it." I don't think I saw anything post-show saying that he was actually injured, so I do think it was just a...
I didn't hear anything regarding him.
Yeah, no, there were injuries.
Obviously, there were injuries, but nothing towards him. But he does play it off so well that you're like, oh man,
oh yeah,
this is not good, because of the way he's talking to the ref, the way the ref's reacting to him, like the way that he goes over the ropes and he's got his arm sitting there, and then Gunther comes over and kicks it. That's when I knew. I was like, okay, now I know he's okay. It's just the storyline, but God, it was so good.
So Gunther would obviously utilize this to his advantage because wounded duck, right? So he takes the next 10 minutes of this match just destroying the shoulder and the arm. I mean, just long locks, Kimura locks in the arm, bunch of stuff where Damian was just having to escape. Damian couldn't do a thing. Whenever Damian tried to do any sort of move, his shoulder would give out on him. He's like, ow, 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 that hurts. But eventually we would get a Priest comeback because that's what we got to do. Priest got to hulk up. Priest got to be Priest. The crowd was very behind Priest as well.
Yes.
Just by the way, they were wanting to see a Damian
pro Priest,
very pro Priest. He'd come back with some huge chops. Big rally would begin. He'd hit a flatliner. It's a move that you can do with one arm, I guess, because he did it with one arm. Gunther would go for a sleeper right after the Priest flatliner, but Priest would reverse it, and he'd go for a razor's edge where his shoulder would give out once again. He just could not pick him up. And Priest but when that happened, Gunther would try to come for a chop, and Priest would jump up, put him in a triangle chokehold from Priest. I was like, damn, you are the Undertaker. Look at you.
He did do that, and I think he's just triangle choking in my head. I was like, Michael call it Hell's Gate.
It's the Hell's Gate,
Michael.
The Hell's Gate, man. But Gunther was able to break it and immediately put Priest into a sleeper hold. But he didn't have all of it. Like, Priest was able to get his arm up there. He couldn't get it under his chin. So Gunther was like, screw this, picked him up, powerbombed him. 1, 2, ooh. Then Gunther would go for a top rope move, which whenever Gunther goes to the top rope, you know something bad's going to happen to Gunther because he doesn't do top rope moves.
No.
Damian Priest is like a 6'9" beast, and he goes up there and Hurricane Rana's Gunther off the top rope. And I'm sitting there like, that probably didn't feel good on your shoulder either. It fell right on your head. Mm-hmm. But he can't do the South of Heaven because of his arm again. This is when Gunther would put in a Kimura lock onto the shoulder, but Priest would rope break it. Gunther would start beating him up, yelling at him, clotheslining him. Gunther was starting to get angry about the whole thing. Priest would go to the top rope when Gunther would follow, and Priest would end up shoving Gunther, but like during the shove, also fall out of the ring. So Gunther goes falling into the middle of the ring. Priest goes falling to the outside. He falls on his other shoulder, and everybody's like, well, he hurt his other shoulder now too. He's a no-armed man in this fight. The ref, he goes out to check on Damian, and Damian says something like, give me a second to the ref. And I was like, well, that's not, you have 10 seconds. That's the rules. But after the ref checked up on Damian, he scooted into the ring and he went over to check on Gunther, who's laying in the middle of the ring, when Mr. Finn Balor out of nowhere comes running up the steel steps, coup de grace Damian Priest outside of the ring, walks away, but Gunther saw it happen. The ref didn't see it happen. Gunther's pissed because obviously he's here to prove a point too. He wants to be able to beat this street trash without asterisks for once. So he goes over there, he boots Finn Balor. He's pissed about him, but brings Damian Priest in the ring, does put a nice little sleeper on him. Damian Priest out like a light. Gunther, with the help of Finn Balor, wins again. This was a hard-hitting match. The Finn stuff is the Finn stuff, but I can't. The match was so good. This is my type of wrestling. That's a pop.
Yeah, it's perfect for you. It was a pop. I guess for me, like, and listening to Gunther on a post show, he talks about how, like, early on he's a little unsure of himself, how has trouble finding his footing, and he credits Damian for really taking him out of his game, and he had to kind of hone in on it. So I thought that was fantastic stuff. That stuff with Gunther being unsure kind of continued to carry over. Once Priest suffered that shoulder injury, in the match, Gunther's old Gunther. So it is kind of interesting to me, I guess, that, we built Gunther to be so unsure of himself, and then all of a sudden he was normal Gunther and really kind of reasserted himself. The Finn stuff is, like you said, the Finn stuff. I'm sure Damian's going to try to say that Finn cost him once again, but Gunther can just be like, no, I had you beat anyway.
Well, I think Gunther's going to be like, well, I'm pissed that, like, you're right. I think this time Gunther's going to be like, you know what, you're right. And Gunther's going to be pissed that he couldn't do it. Like, because the whole point was, like, he was scared of Damian. He was like, no, I'm still Gunther. And that's why he was so pissed when Finn was out there and he tried to beat up Finn too. He's like, you know what? Screw this. I wanted to beat Damian clean.
Yeah. You know what? That is probably a fair point, because after the PLE goes off air, Damian does attack Balor in the parking lot, and then JD, Carlito, and Finn take control, and Finn hits him with the chair. So Damian's probably going to be out for a couple weeks. So then it's probably Finn's time to get that world title match, or I don't know if it'll be for the title, but maybe it's just like a singles match that he's really looking forward to, and you get that in. But
and then Damian screws Finn out of his title match, and then Dirty Dom steps in. And then we get ourselves a Dirty Dom Gunther one-off match where Gunther destroys him, but Dirty Dom's in the spot.
It's just one of those things that he is going to get that, and then Damian's going to come screw him over, which is kind of just like that story is almost taken over the main title, which I don't like, but it is what it is.
I just think we saw this coming.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody saw it. Everybody knew that Finn was going to screw him out, but I think they did such a good job with the story and the match itself to where, like, Damian's now a made man in everybody's eyes, which is exactly what you want. So The real problem is here. How do you reestablish Gunther as being the main threat on the brand? So that's to me what I'm going to be eyeing after this.
Yeah, that is probably the biggest takeaway because Judgment Day stuff is its own stuff. And Gunther was, like I said, he was unsure of himself, but towards the end, like I said, he kind of reestablishes that. So maybe on Monday he comes out, he'll probably cut a promo, but I'd like to see Gunther kind of be more assertive. Yeah. Maybe he attacks somebody. I would like to see that. Maybe he attacks Finn.
And beat up all of Judgment Day. Rhea did it 100 times.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Rhea comes and ripties Gunther.
Top rope. I can't have Liv right now, so I'll have Gunther's title. All right. Well, there was one match that everybody knew was going to take place this year after WrestleMania. WrestleMania 40 hit. We had Cody, new champ, and we knew one thing. There was going to be a Bloodline Civil War, and that Civil War was going to take place inside of a War Games match at Survivor Series. We knew it, and it was time. Absolute time. And there was so much uncertainty going into this. You have CM Punk joining the OG Bloodline. Bronson Reed is on Bloodline 2.0. Paul Heyman's back, but he's both of their wise men right now, kind of. I mean, Punk said our wise man on SmackDown, and he now Paul Heyman owes CM Punk a favor. What the hell is that? There's just so much uncertainty. And it was time. Bloodline 2.0 made an entrance by themselves. Like, they
solid unit.
A unit. They're a tribe. They came out together. The OG Bloodline did not. Everybody Jimmy Uso came out by himself. Yep. Everybody got their own entrance.
We talk about theme songs that slap. Jimmy's low key.
Jimmy slaps. Really Jimmy slaps. That whole OG Bloodline, you got some slappers in there for entrance scenes. But Roman doesn't even come out last. Mr. Jey Uso gets to come out last, and he goes straight to the ring. It's him and Tama Tonga starting.
I thought it was really cool, by the way, before we break into it, how Tama Tonga was just scaling.
Yeah, he was like a spider monkey.
just all the way across the cage. I love that. I was like, oh, that's really cool.
And Michael Cole's like, what is he saying? And Corey Graves is like, I don't know. I think it's a saying like yeet. We're going to have Kathy Kelly interview him. I was like, okay, sure. But this match, it started out Jay and Tama Tonga. Good Lord, they took like 5 minutes before they hit each other. They were doing the whole soaking it all in, looking at it, sizing each other up. You would think everybody in the world thought that because Bloodline 2.0 had the advantage that the next guy was going to be Tonga Loa, right?
Yeah.
Right? The whole world.
Makes sense, right?
Makes sense. Nope. Solo Sikoa sends in Bronson Reed second. And because of that, Jey Uso gets his butt whooped. Yeah. And when Lil Bro gets his butt whooped, Jimmy Uso is next for the OG Bloodline. He runs in there. But the theme of the night with this until Roman got to the ring was one member would enter the ring for OG Bloodline and get destroyed. That was basically how this thing went. They weren't doing the whole every member takes out a weapon under the ring. Bronson Reed did most of the work. He threw in like 5 chairs when he got up there. But then after that, they kind of chilled until later on. But Tonga Loa would come, or Tonga Loa didn't be next up, right? So he would start going to the gate, and Solo would stop him. And Solo would be like, no, Fatu.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it from like and I was thinking about this as soon as it happened. Like, okay, yeah, I would probably send my heavy hitters out first to wear out the other guys.
Just destroy everybody. Yeah. Right? It makes sense. Just send in your killers, destroy it, and then when the next guy comes in, destroy him. Yeah. Keep it up. So Chica Fatu did exactly that. He walks in and starts tearing up house. Jey Uso would spear him, but Fatu would just pop right back up. He just no-sold it. He did that a couple times throughout this match. It was apparent right away that Jacob Fatu and Bronson Reed were going to be a hard time for the OG Bloodline to handle. Yeah. We would then get the next up for OG Bloodline, and Punk's ready to go. And Punk goes up there, and Roman this time stops Punk, puts his hand on his chest, sends Sammy, and Sammy's looking at Roman like, oh, dude, really, the drama? Like, Sammy was kind of that guy the entire time. He was like, what is this drama? We're in the drama,
match. But also, like, he also had, like, the drama, but he's also, like, he has this look to Roman, like, are you sure? Like, are you sure about this? Why not just let him go instead of me?
Yeah, like, he wants to go, bro. Just let him go. And Sammy would actually pull off a little bit of a comeback here in terms of the OG Bloodline having any advantage in this match until he would try to do a crossbody to Jacob Fatu, where Jacob Fatu would catch that man and pop up Samoa and drop him. OG Bloodline's getting destroyed here.
Yeah. The Usos, I will say, did have some nice tag moves here and there. It's like, reminiscent of the old Usos.
Yeah, when Jimmy first entered the ring, they did give a little Uso moment. And Jimmy was big MVP of this match. He was doing a lot here. But again, it's a lot to write down, people. Okay.
Yeah.
But then eventually Tonga Loa would come in. He would come in and he would throw some tables in there, and he was having trouble finding a damn table.
You know, when he starts looking under the ring and he pulls out a table, I was like, "How's this man gonna botch putting a table?"
I know,
in the
me
ring?
too.
What's he gonna do?
I thought the exact same thing. I was like, he's gonna break it. I was like, he's gonna break the table. It's gonna like bend as he's putting.
And
it
he's
in
like sliding him into Fatu, and Fatu's like, "Hurry up!" Like, he's like, "Why are you taking so long?"
Fatu was yelling at him. Next up for OG Bloodline, though, Roman is ready to go, and he starts walking toward the door, and Punk just shoves him out of the way, and Punk enters the match. And Punk does get a weapon. He gets his nice little toolbox, his handy-dandy toolbox. He starts beating everybody with it.
Bob the Builder, I tell you.
Bob the Builder, Punk the Builder. And he starts beating everybody over the head with his toolbox. You could hear it, too, full of wrenches. But he does a running bulldog to Jacob Fatu that leads his head onto the toolbox, and Fatu pops right back up. No sells that and comes after. He pop up Samoa and drops CM Punk.
Yeah.
So, yep. Solo at this point would enter, and when Solo entered, he talked some smack. He said, "I'm going to show you what the real tribal chief is" to Roman, and he goes to the ring. He grabs a chain, and when he grabbed a chain, he grabs a table first, and he grabs a table, puts it to where it's propped like this through the ropes. So he's standing on the outside, and all the Bloodline members bring over OG Bloodline members, put their head against it, and Solo makes the table go up and smack them in the head, one after the other. Just boom, boom, boom. And when that happens, he goes in, he does all of his finishing moves to everybody. He just destroys the OG Bloodline, and then he pulls out a chain, locks the door for himself. He puts his own lock and chain on the door. He's like, "No, Roman's not getting in here. I don't want Roman to be in this match." And we're like, "Well, the match doesn't start unless Roman's in there."
Roman's got to get in the match for the match to start, Solo.
Yeah,
but
this is not how it works. We're gonna be here forever, Solo. Saturday night, give me some time back. But it was Roman time, and he's he's going up against all of Bloodline 2.0 at this point. His OG Bloodline is absolutely destroyed, and the door's locked, so he's got to climb.
And a cool picture of like Roman on the stairs, and you have like Tama Tonga, and I think Tonga Loa was there. Fatu's there. Like, they're just waiting.
Yeah, they're waiting. Everybody's waiting. So Roman starts to scale because that's the only way in. Door's locked. But Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa meet him at the top, and he kind of just like elbows them off, and they go falling. Boom, boom. And then Jacob Fatu, I think, or Bronson Reed's up there. He hits him off as well. And they all of Bloodline 2.0 end up like in the center of one of the ring. And Roman Reigns is a top rope crossbody to all of them. And when he does that, he goes around, he picks up each member of the OG Bloodline, gives them their med pack, clear, gets them all up, except for CM Punk. He makes him get up by himself. And I felt bad because he's like looking around like, damn.
Yeah, he's like, help me up. And he just, no.
So
not helping you up.
No trust there. But the match still hadn't rang because the bell didn't ring, which was a weird thing. And Punk and Roman look at each other, and they start staring each other down. They get face to face when you see Mr. Paul Heyman now. Wiseman's out there, and he's like, look, he gives them all their accolades. He calls, my tribal chief, all that stuff to Roman. He calls CM Punk the best in the world. He's like, in order for you to beat them, you need the best out of each other. Just basically put your past aside. This is War Games. And when Paul Heyman says that, then the bell rings.
It says War Games. It's like, oh, he said it, so
no, I guess that
somebody's got to say it.
Match starts. Match doesn't start until Paul Heyman yells War Games, I guess. But obviously when that happens, all hell breaks loose. You get some absolutely crazy stuff here. You get Death Valley drivers to Punk. Punk and everybody's going nuts. You set up a table on one side, and they end up Punk is down. Roman's down. The Usos are on the other ring. They're down. And Bronson Reed is destroying Roman Reigns. And he puts Roman onto a table, and what is he, 350? 350 pound?
I think they bill him at 350,
Bronson Reed climbs to the top of the cage. 350-pound man, Bronson Reed, and does a tsunami from the top of the cage to Roman Reigns. Nope. Punk saves Roman. He pulls Roman out at the last second. Bronson Reed goes through the table. Later, we found out he shattered both of his ankles. He didn't break them, but he sprained both of his ankles at one time. Yeah. You can see the video now. People zoomed in on his ankles.
Yeesh. Doesn't look good. And Triple H says that at the press conference after. He's like, I think Bronson Reed might be questionable for a few weeks. He might be out a few weeks because of his ankle. And I was like, oh, that's not good. And then I saw the video and I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's not good at all.
Not good at all. He's more than questionable, Triple H.
He's not going to be there, bro. He's not going to be there. But at this point, Roman gives Punk the acknowledgement of like, hey, man, for this match, we good. It's basically what happens here. But the OG Bloodline or Bloodline 2.0 would get some more advantage here. Solo and Samoan Spike Roman like directly after that moment. Mm-hmm. But more stuff happens throughout the match, more amazing stuff until we now are on the other side of the ring. And now it's time to put Jacob Fatu out of this match. And Jimmy Uso goes to the top and he hits a freaking Uso splash off the top of the steel cage to Jacob Fatu, hits it perfectly, ends up breaking his toe.
Yeah.
These guys landing feet first.
I don't remember him landing, and I'm sure the video's out there.
The adrenaline had to be.
I haven't looked out there, but like, yeah, they're like, oh, he's in the press conference. They said he's hurt a little bit. He broke a toe, and I was like, oh, well, that's not that bad. He's questionable.
Yeah,
maybe
he's questionable, right? Yeah. He may be out a couple weeks. He may just be doing promos, but yeah. Bronson Reed, his ankles, they gone. Uh-huh. But we end up with those two moves, the two big boys of the Bloodline 2.0, they're out of the mix. I think that they end up doing some finishers, the Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. They're now out of the mix too, but we end up, OG Bloodline is surrounding Solo Sikoa by himself. And Solo Sikoa gets up and he goes, I'm still the one tribal chief, the true tribal chief. And when he says that, Roman looks at Jay, nods. Jay super kicks Solo. Jimmy super kicks Solo. Solo goes stumbling into the ropes. Sammy looks at Roman. Roman gives him the nod. Sammy haluva kicks Solo into the corner. CM Punk doesn't get a nod from Roman but goes over, picks up Solo onto his shoulders, looks at Roman before doing it, kind of just giving him the acknowledgement. Hits Solo with a GTS. This man's still on his feet. Good Lord, Solo. That's pretty cool. But Roman Reigns, hits the spear. Pins Solo Sikoa. 1, 2, 3. The OG Bloodline win the War Games match in the Civil War of the Bloodline. CM Punk, Roman put their differences aside. All things are good. That's kind of is what it is. A lot happening here. I'm popping the match, but I do have a drop for this. But what do you want to hear about about the match itself? Yeah, I'm gonna pop it. All around entertaining cinema. I thought it was great the way the match was done. Pretty cut and dry, which I guess I didn't really expect. I guess myself and you, I think, and some of the people we talked to, and maybe some of just the universe in general, were like, okay, there's going to be a turn, or there's going to be some Heyman stuff, or there's going to be something, right? And we kind of maybe built it up in our head of like, man, so maybe it kind of fell flat to some. But in terms of the match itself, thought the match was phenomenal. I think it's important to note at the end there, Roman is still like trying to accept Solo. He's like, I can still give you a hug, like it can be forgiven, sort of. You have multiple points throughout the match that like OG Bloodline minus Punk are all hugging, but then you have OG Bloodline hugging Punk minus Roman. Like, so there's that interesting dynamic. They said after the match, Solo's not going to take this quietly. Like he's not going to be done. Bronson Reed is obviously out for a while. Fatu injured his knee at one point. I think that's just more storyline based. Because Fatu is so good at doing those. He's done them before. Yeah. So now you've got the whole, I guess the big question coming out of this is what's the favor, which I guess that kind of takes precedent maybe right now instead of the Solo stuff. Yeah, so OG Bloodline wins this match. Post-match, post-everything, you had Heyman and Punk. They acknowledge each other. Punk says, I'm coming for that favor eventually. But after the show, in the WWE post show, they were talking about how that's the end of OG Bloodline versus Bloodline 2.0. That's what they labeled it as. So Fatu is hurt. He had the knee thing. Bronson Reed's actually hurt. His feet are gone. It's feeling like they're about to pivot away from the team-based stuff and go toward just Roman versus Solo, Ulafala, Tribal Chief, one-on-one action. Mm-hmm. Which I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready for that, honestly. Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know. I mean, there's obviously still more twists and turns down the way, but they even asked the Usos, like, what do you guys think is going to happen for you guys? And
Jay just kind of said, oh, whatever's really kind of out there, we'll just wait and see.
Yeah.
And Sammy, are you back with them? Or are you not back with them? And he gives some long roundabout answer. And then Jimmy at the end's like, yeah, so he's back. And it's like, well, it doesn't really feel like it feels like kind of like for the OG bloodline wise, at least, like kind of feels like this is it.
Yeah.
Like they conquered what they needed to do. And now you just need Roman versus Solo, I guess.
Yeah, that was the issue with booking them to win, is that it feels like, well, this is like the most definitive way to beat the other team, right? A War Games match. You're locked in a cage with each other. You come out on top. Business is settled. Mm-hmm. So now the only thing of business that's left to be settled is that Ulafala, which, you know, signifies the tribal chief. And Jay and them don't acknowledge Roman as a tribal chief anymore, right? They were there for Roman for this, but they're not sitting there saying, you know, I acknowledge you as my tribal chief. You know, you have Jay saying that I'm your equal. You know, he even came out after Roman. Punk, this was a one-off. Punk made that very clear. He didn't acknowledge him. Right. I mean, you could say that Jimmy probably still acknowledges him a little bit, but Sammy definitely not, you know. So there is no OG bloodline team, really. They just teamed up for this one match. So now we just go Roman Solo and see where that takes us.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that like you said, Jimmy's kind of the only one that still kind of acknowledges him. But even that's not what it once was.
Right.
So everybody's equal, and they've done a good job, I guess, of establishing everybody on their own. But now it's like, where do you go from here with all those guys? I think that the Roman Solo stuff obviously has more twists and turns in it. I mean, it kind of has to for kind of what we're thinking is happening. You could still somehow have like Solo, Tamatanga, Tongaloa, and Fatu, like Bloodline 2.0 and the original Bloodline. But again, it's also like, oh, well, we just saw that, you know what I mean? So I don't know what they're going to do. Yeah. I have no clue.
Yeah, it really backs you know. That's my. I'm not dropping it. It's like a pending drop because it is like we got to wait and see. But this does feel like if we get more just OG Bloodline versus Bloodline 2.0, like team versus team stuff after this, I'm just gonna be like, why did you book it to where they beat them this definitively at War Games? Because, you know, I just don't want to reiterate everything over and over again. This feels definitive. Yes. This feels like the end to this chapter, this inning of this story. So time to move.
Yeah, and that's kind of the interesting thing about the War Games matches. Like, at least in the past, it felt like they are the end of feuds.
Yeah.
And, you know, I guess it doesn't really feel that way with the women's side or kind of the men's side at one point. It's like, it kind of just felt like a PLE match. You know, it doesn't feel like the end of the feuds. It should be, but it's like, I don't know. So now it's like you have Solo, Roman, but then you also have the Punk stuff in the back with Heyman, and like that's gonna be something.
Are we talking Punk Roman there? Like you know, there's a bunch of stuff there. One more, one thing that was going all over the internet is like there was nothing big, no run-ins, no Rock afterward, no Seth Rollins, no Jimmy turn, Paul Heyman turn. It's not fair of us to criticize WWE's booking because us fans fantasy book some ridiculous WWE 2K idea in our head, but was a little bit. Were you a little bit disappointed just by the nothingness of it?
A little bit,
yeah.
I thought it kind of all around. I felt like it was pretty cut and dry. Yeah, everything was, and you know our predictions. We didn't get them all right, that's for sure. But they were cut and dry, and so. You know, I watched the press conference all the way through. I watched everything all the way through, and I was like, okay, come on. Yeah, I literally out loud was like, give us something, just something, just a sprinkle. Because then it goes back to what we've talked about before, the Rock Bad Blood thing.
It makes no sense.
It still makes no sense.
So he showed up with Cody, so he's going after Cody is probably the deal there. I mean, we could talk about that for a day, but like,
right.
What was I about to say? I was about to say, like, it didn't help that they kept the cameras rolling for like 10 minutes after the match ended. Mm-hmm. Like the pin happened, and then we got like them slowly hugging Punk and Roman slowly acknowledging Punk. And then like Heyman was on the outside and Roman slowly acknowledged him with a pat on the head. And then you had the Punk stuff, and then they slowly followed them up the ramp. And then it was like, okay, now you're just egging me on.
I think it's like they know that people are like expecting something big,
well, especially after last year when they literally put like the end credits on and then Punk's music hits And so like this year, it felt like they were doing the exact same thing, and then nothing happened. So it was just a little bit of me. It was like, okay, well, you wanted me to be disappointed in that because you freaking did that. You egged me on, you dick.
Yeah, and like I said, it seems like all the storylines. Like, I mean, I guess Shinsuke in LA is probably the one that it didn't go maybe as the way that we thought. I guess because we could have made cases for both on the other sides for everything else. It's like Shinsuke kind of has a clear direction. Like I shouldn't say that. I should say like that has a fresh start. The United States Championship has a fresh start coming out of this, and the world title and the women's war game match and the men's war game match and even Bron Breakker, it just kind of feels like a continuation.
Yeah.
Everything else, like the Shinsuke one, LA Knight, okay, feels ending or brand new beginning. The other things I felt like didn't have the endings that like a big four should have.
Yep.
But overall, it was still good.
Yeah.
Like I still enjoyed it.
Good stuff. Didn't agree with some of the booking, but you can't deny the quality of the matches, and the fun of just watching that was on another level. So very happy with Survivor Series this year. But that's our review for Survivor Series. Big old pops there, 8 to basically nothing on the drop meter. Tonight, when this comes out Monday night, we're doing our first ever watch along live stream on Twitch, twitch.com/CodWrestlePod. Be there. We'll be watching some Monday Night Raw. You'll get our first ever live reactions to the whole thing, so that should be fun. But other than that, follow us on all of our socials at CodWrestlePod, COD WrestlePod. Listen to us wherever you get your podcasts at YouTube, Spotify, Apple, etc. And if you want to come talk to us, we have a Discord. It's in our link tree in our bio along with all of our socials. Follow all of them, comment on all of our stuff. We love talking to you. But anyways, I'm Will. That's Brandon. We are the Cousins, a Destruction Wrestling Podcast, and we will see you next time.